In Parliament today, we heard a speech that was dangerous, a speech that can only hurt Aboriginal children. It was delivered by Opposition Leader Bill Shorten. He was speaking about the alleged racism of whites against Aborigines.
It's time for truth-telling. Our ancestors drove the first peoples of this nation from their Bora ring. We scattered the ashes of their campfires. We fenced the hunting grounds, we poisoned the waterholes. We distributed blankets infected with diseases we knew would kill.
Now this is not truth-telling. By we, Shorten means to include all of us, when in truth, none of us were alive back then. We just fit the racial stereotype. And let's go to the facts. Yes, Aborigines were pushed off their lands. Yes, there was cruelty, racism and even murder. But was there really this?
We fenced the hunting grounds, we poisoned the waterholes. We distributed blankets infected with diseases we knew would kill.
We poisoned the waterholes? Can Shorten give me one proven example? And did any government condone it? And what of this claim that we distributed blankets infected with deadly diseases, smallpox, I assume? Can Shorten give one single example? When, Mr. Shorten? Where? In fact, there is zero proof that ever happened here. And how does any of this atrocity mongering help us today? It's just one more of those myths meant to vilify white people as monsters. Now, I do think Shorten's heart is in the right place. I mean, like me, like you probably, and the vast majority of Australians, he hates seeing so many Aborigines out of work, not in schools, dying early. But there he was. He heard today more bad news on that front from Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull. We are now spending more than $30 billion a year to help just 550,000 Aborigines. $30 billion. Yet today, Malcolm Turnbull admitted all that money still wasn't meaning we were hitting the targets for improving Aboriginal lives.
Even with successive Commonwealth and state governments investing more resources, and even with tens of thousands of dedicated Australians seeking to contribute and engage, we are still not making enough progress. We've come a long way since the referendum, but we have not come far enough.
See, the government has set 7 targets for closing the gap between Aboriginal standard of living and non-Aboriginal. And these are targets to get Aboriginal children healthier, better at English and maths, staying longer at schools, and of course, to get more Aborigines in jobs, things like that. 7 targets, and it's failed in 6. Now, this is not because white Australians are racists. It is not because white Australians are handing out poison blankets. In fact, we're doing the very opposite. We are handing out billions of dollars. We are doing everything that people of good hearts can be expected to do. It is simply wrong to suggest we're so riddled with racism, and it's dangerous. It tells Aboriginal children, don't even try. Whites hate you. They'll trip you up. You won't succeed. And it also gives irresponsible activists and irresponsible adults an excuse. Don't blame yourselves if you fail. Don't blame Aboriginal culture, even when children in Aboriginal families are 10 times more likely to need saving from bad parents, from being beaten or neglected. Blame the whites instead. Now, yesterday I showed you one Aboriginal politician in the Northern Territory claiming that such children being rescued were really being stolen.
Isn't it true, though, that the reason that these children are being taken away is because they're not safe, because they're being abused and neglected by their own parents?
No, I don't believe that. That's the story that people have been listening to, and I'm standing strong here. And I know that children have never been abused within the family itself. There might have been, but I haven't come across one.
That's the stolen generations myth being generated right there, confusing children who were saved with children who were stolen. And the stolen generations is just one more of those horror stories that let activists blame government, blame whites, rather than Aboriginal cultures for problems we face now. Whites aren't making Aboriginal children 5 times more likely to be hospitalised by an assault. Whites aren't making Aboriginal women 34 times more likely to be hospitalised by domestic violence. Whites aren't making Aboriginal children twice more likely to wag school. And whites aren't making Aborigines live out bush where there are no jobs. Now, we can help and we must, but fixing those things starts with people making the right choices, not in Canberra, but in Aboriginal homes. And politicians who tell lies about our history do not help. They do not help one single Aboriginal child.